The first time I ever associated the terms fast and Subaru with each other was playing Gran Turismo. Subarus to me were about as memorable as a doormat. It served a purpose, and that was all you had to know about it. The Impreza WRX was the first Subaru model I had ever bothered to commit to memory. According to video game reality, it was a force to be reckoned with, on the tarmac or the gravel, and definitely involved a turbocharger, somehow, I thought. The first time I drove a Subaru in the real world, it was my mom's 2002 Subaru Forester Model S. She had crashed her Isuzu Trooper 2 times in the last couple years, driving in the rain and following too close, and the second crash was the nail in its coffin. She was 100% convinced she needed an off-road vehicle, despite being a suburban bookkeeper. The simple fact that we lived in the Pacific Northwest was proof enough to her that she still needed a car that was, quote, good in the snow. It served without any major hiccups for about 7 years, taking her and my little brother all over the Northwest on camping trips and vacations, and traversing the harrowing 1-inch snowstorms we tend to have every other year. Now, I wish I could say the first time I came to own a Subaru, it was a joyous occasion, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. In 2012, my mom died suddenly of a brain aneurysm. At 55, with no underlying health problems, she might as well have been assassinated, struck by a lightning bolt. I was heartbroken, I was speechless, I was numb, and I was sinking slowly into an era of depression and anger more razor sharp than anything I'd ever felt in my life. It was relentless. It stalked me at work, it dive-tackled me at family get-togethers. Life was a merry-go-round with a moped spinning it, and I was the dull Russian boy, desperately clinging to the center trying to keep things together. As the time wore on, and the same thoughts persisted, I knew I had to escape it somehow, and my mom's Forester finally legally became mine. I began to think. At 26, the sole purpose of a car was to drive it like a bat out of hell or modify the shit out of it. I remembered I had joked with my mom that when she was done with the Forester and had blown the motor or transmission or what the fuck ever, that I'd buy it off her and do a WRX swap. I mean, how hard could that be, right? I'd install the supercharger and, like, a clutch, and that's just a few steps beyond that, right? Emboldened by a bit of life insurance money, I set about trying to plan the perfect WRX swap, the mommy missile. I read thousands of pages of content, EJ25 swap guides, and eventually began accumulating parts. An EJ25, an FP green. Wait, no, I sold that and bought an FP red. Wait, no, maybe I wanted a VF39, so I bought one of those, then I sold it, then I bought another one. I bought a complete 07 STI transmission swap. Wiring harness, roll connectors, subframe, steering rack, power steering pump, seats, throttle bodies, turbo bag exhaust, top mount, intercoolers, uppipes, gaskets. I read and bought and traded and sold parts for the car for over a year. But as the $15,000 mark approached, I stopped and wondered how effective was this whole idea anyways. I was so engrossed in the escape it provided that I hadn't bothered to question if it made any goddamn sense at all. With little conflict, I decided I needed to back away from the enormous mess I was so enthusiastically rushing myself into. The labor and parts were difficult enough, but if I was trying to register this car in Oregon, I knew it was going to be a pain in the ass to get it to pass DEQ. So away all of it went. Sold off here and there at a profit and some at a loss, but it was alright to me. I had made up my mind to buy a nice cheap WRX instead. So I gathered up $7,800 and bought what I thought was the best WRX I could buy for the money. Enter my ownership of a Stage 2 2004 WRX. Bought with about 140,000 miles on it, the seller was originally from back east. I bought it, I drove it, I loved it. But about $4,000 and 2 painstaking years later, I had had the radiator explode, the shocks fail, the brakes replace, the tie rods and ball joints fail, and I had begun dripping oil out of the pump and the valve cover. Plus, having done some driving in friends' STIs, I wished like hell it had an EJ25 to play with, instead of the anemic, although fuel-efficient EJ20. With my mind made up that a swap was ridiculous, and better options had to be out there, I stripped some parts off the car, sold it at a loss, and decided it was time to get more serious. Within a month, I had found exactly what I'd been looking for all along. A 2007 WRX wagon in World Rally Blue, with only 37,000 miles and no modifications other than a catback exhaust. The cherry on top was the seller only wanted $10,500 for it, which blew my mind, even though it did have a salvage title. So I rushed out with the cash, and I bought it within 24 hours of the ad being posted. A basic inspection and test drive was really the best I could do without fear of being outfoxed by another buyer. He said someone had already called from Idaho and offered to fly out that night to buy it. I brought it home that night, slapped my old Cobb SF intake on it, and decided to start plotting my next move.
Suffice to say, I hate wasting money. I think everybody should. I mean, we earn this stuff by the hour, generally speaking, and that's, well, kind of depressing. I've been accumulating parts since December 2014, and here I am, September 2015. I'm finally getting around to installing them, but I do think the wait has been worth it, because so far I've saved about $1,500, I think. I'm going to show you guys all the parts list of all the parts that I've purchased so far, where I got them from, and what I paid. Now, keep in mind, Minute Rice isn't sponsored by anybody, so it's not like we're showing you this to try and promote anything. We're just showing you because nobody ever talks about where they get the parts for their build or what they pay for them. Taking the time to sit down and look up part numbers rather than just search things like Grimmspeed uppipe in Google, you will find more results, and you might find strange kind of small sites that don't get a lot of traffic that are selling it for way cheaper than you might expect. Sometimes you don't even find them on Google Shop. Search the part number in Google and go to like page 2 or 3 or 4. I know nobody ever goes that deep into the Google search results, but look, you might save some money.
With all that shopping done, I was on to the hard part, the install.
Oh, fuck. God damn it.
But the results were worth it.